Welcome to On the Record. That's the name of the podcast.
Hi, Soha.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you.
So in case you guys weren't already aware of this incredibly accomplished person sitting next to me, her name is Vandana Nittoor, and she is an artist and a painter.
That's correct.
Is that right? Yeah. And an author. If you look there, that's her book, Banks of Damasa. Do you want to give the readers like a quick overview of your book?
It's my book, Banks of the Damasa, was written in the year 2015, and it's basically retelling of the life of Sita. I felt like the book was written from a very male perspective, and I wanted to bring out the women's perspective in it. And yeah, I mean, I enjoyed writing it, and I hope people who read it enjoy it as well.
I know that you see, we've talked about this beforehand, that your painting process is very like you sit down at one point and you did it, or at least it was for a long time. Is that similar to how you also write?
Not really. I mean, in a sense, it is kind of similar. There's two pieces to writing.
Yeah.
One is like the writing practice that you do, and writing practice is something that you need. When I'm doing my writing practices, I pretty much do it in the instant. I probably give myself a time, like say maybe I'm going to write for 5 minutes, and then I set a timer for myself, and I can give myself any random topic that comes to my head.
Yeah.
And then there's no editing, so whatever comes to my head goes onto the paper.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't correct it for grammar. I don't make sure that I'm sticking to the topic. I just let my mind run. It's a way for me to kind of assess where I am at and, what is happening within me, and, to give myself that unstructured time and, the ability to just express myself freely. And if anybody is willing, invariably it's my family, I try to read what I've written to them. And by reading out loudly what you have written without editing it, develops a spine for what you are and who you are.
That's actually interesting, because I know that like a few authors, like you'll watch like podcasts or you'll listen to interviews, and they say that they hate showing people any of their work before it's done and finished, and they don't want opinions from their loved ones until they have a finished product. But you're the opposite.
This is not about the finished product, but it's just about, for me, developing a spine for the person that I am, the thoughts that I have, and whatever I'm feeling in that particular instant, and develop the muscle to express myself in a way that is natural and honest to myself. And that is just the practice part of it. But when you are writing the book, obviously you want to be a little bit more thoughtful. But doing the practice makes the flow of writing a lot more spontaneous. But for creative work, I think you need to give yourself the liberty and the freedom to be the person that you are, unfiltered.
So you really don't go in with the spine, you kind of build the spine as you go.
Build the spine as you go, because if you are constantly editing it and looking for approval from the outside, then your work is not honest to yourself or to the reader. And people, not just for people outside, but any person writing anything, you want to write something that you want to read, that is true to yourself and honest to yourself. And it's only by developing the muscle to be able to express yourself freely and in an uninhibited way that you can just go down that path and be able to express yourself.
When you say honest to yourself, it's very much like you're doing it for you. You're not doing it for an audience.
Absolutely.
You're not doing it for others. You're not doing it for like people to like look on and like compliments. You're kind of doing it. It's a more self-fulfilling feeling.
Yes, absolutely. I think, if you are not enjoying the process of your work, or you're not enjoying making your art or writing, then it is really inconsequential if other people like it and enjoy it, because you can only produce what is true to you and what you enjoy. And if your heart is not in the process, or it's not, you're trying to edit yourself at every instance, then there's not going to be much for you to put out there, because really, I think what people fail to recognize is that even the ugliest and the darkest thought that you have had, others have had it too. But it's only by expressing it and putting it on paper and reading it out loud that you are allowing yourself to be saying it's okay to have this, and you're validating the other human being and saying okay to him or her, saying yes, we are all the same, we all have these thoughts, these are the feelings that we have. Sometimes we misbehave, and sometimes we are exemplary versions of ourselves. And this is all a part of being human, and everything is okay.
I think it's funny because you said that so much of it, you just said like when you're writing, it's something that comes like naturally out of you.
Yeah.
So much of like what you do, even like when you're painting, I'm sure it's the same. Like you can't force yourself to paint if you're not in the headspace to paint, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think so. I think you can sit and paint at any given point in time, but
your heart won't be in it.
Yeah, I mean, you can even be enjoying the process, and it's only that when you feel like when you step back and look at it, that's when the judgment piece comes into perspective. Like, you know, is this good? Is this bad? Have I, you know? So that is always a challenge. It's like, you know, how do you balance all of these pieces? Like, and for an artist, I think the biggest ownership that you have is the ownership of the process. The process is what you enjoy the most. And, you know, it's like starting with a blank canvas and bringing it into a piece of work that you can actually enjoy over time and over years.
So then when you say that, like, it's a reflection of like how you're like feeling at the moment, so like you're writing, you're painting, and it's like that moment of your life, because your work is such a big part of you, it's reflected on that. When you look at certain paintings, can you like tell, like, oh, like that day I was feeling maybe this way, I use this color palette or this tone, something like that?
Usually color palettes and stuff is something that I decide before I sit down to paint, and there have been instances where I feel like, oh my god, today this is the palette that I want to paint with, and then I go looking for subjects that, you know, that is relevant to the palette that I want to decide on. So the process works both ways. It's not just, you know, it's like one thing informs the other.
Oh, that's, when you say looking for subjects, what does that mean?
Looking for subjects in the sense that what is it that I would like to paint using these palette colors. That is at times, and at times there are subjects that are so interesting that you're like, you just want to paint
captivating.
it. Yeah,
like
it's a captivating ending.
Yeah.
So.
So I noticed that a lot of what you're painting, like we can go around the room later and have like show the audience, but a lot of your artwork is of people. It's a lot of like portraits, and it's like, are these people that you know?
Some of them are people that I know, and you know, I've asked them to, if I could take pictures of them and paint them, because invariably I paint at home, and you know, it's difficult to get subjects to come into your house and sit down and paint them. And there are some people that I really don't know, and you know, I found probably an interesting piece in a magazine that I was reading through, or you know, or somebody I saw on the subway while I was riding the train that I felt like, oh my god, that facial structure looks so interesting, and I want to like kind of draw it or paint it.
When you say interesting, that doesn't mean like there's so many like different words, because like what's interesting to you, some people might just be like, oh wow, they're pretty, but walk by.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily categorize it as pretty or not pretty, but I think when in the normal course of your life, or even as you're doing life, some people just, you know, walk in and, you know, they get your attention.
Go to them.
No, not all eyes to go to. It's like they get your attention.
Oh, I see.
So it's like for whatever reason they get your attention, and like this particular young lady that I painted, she was when I was visiting India, we were at an event, and she was a part of the catering team, and she was the person who was cleaning up the tables, and you know, she was doing all the work behind the scenes, and there was such great poise in her that every time her work was done, she would just go and stand silently behind and, you know, lean against the wall. That something about her really drew me to her, and so I went and I talked to her a little bit and found out a little bit about her life, and I told her that I was an artist and if I could paint her, and it was okay, and she said yeah, sure, and you know, she felt very happy that I wanted to paint her, and I said, can I take a picture of you? And quickly she just, you know, straightened herself out, and she's trying to bring the best version of herself for the picture, and it was such a charming moment for the two of us that, you know, I painting her was something that I really enjoyed, because there's something extraordinarily human about her. You know, that's something that drew me to her.
Extraordinarily human. That's good, actually. Is that normally the reaction you get when you ask people to paint? If you like, hey, can I paint you? Is it normally like excitement?
Yes, some people are excited, of course, and others are there's that reluctance of, you know, why me? Like, you know, yeah, I mean, I get mixed variety of reactions, and sometimes they're not happy with the output, sometimes they're happy with the output, but it's a combination of everything.
So you do show them the output then?
Sometimes I do. I mean, and it's not like, like I said, if I've just seen somebody on while I was, walking on the street or sitting at a coffee place and quickly decide to draw a sketch and then come back home and paint, then I really don't know that person. So it's those people, obviously I cannot show them my work.
That's interesting. I had this one question for you, and I was wondering if you'd answer it. If you were introducing yourself at an art exhibit, what would your one sentence bio be?
That's a very interesting question. I guess my one sentence bio would be that I'm inviting people to come within themselves, to find the commonness of humanity in both them and in the subjects that I've painted, and to find that moment of connectedness that we all share. Anytime you experience awe, whether it be in nature, is when you feel that sense of interconnectedness, and that's what I'm trying to kind of draw.
The humanity within everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's interesting. What would you say? Because obviously, I can't figure this out yet. Do you have like a favorite artwork, or it's like your children? You can't decide.
I think it's, I have a few pieces that I really enjoy and go back to them over and over again. Do I have an all-time favorite? I don't think so.
No.
Because I think as an artist that curiosity keeps you going, of like everything that you can express has not yet come out of you. So you're always thinking about maybe there's other more work that is coming out that, that can be more interesting. But there are pieces that, again, that you're like, oh yes, that was fun doing that and it's come out really well. So it's like you enjoy that. So
when you said there's more coming out of you, so there was this video I watched of this artist and they were painting, and they started off with palm trees and then they painted over that. And at one point they just kept painting, there were no palm trees left. And they spent like probably half an hour on these intricate palm trees and it was always painted over.
Yeah.
And I was watching that video and I was so like, why would you do that? Why would you get rid of your... I was so confused. I couldn't figure out why they would want to like paint over something you spent so long doing.
I'm not surprised at all. I mean, if you were like, you tell me that you've taken a few mindfulness meditation classes, and if you sit down to meditate, you will notice that your mind changes from moment to moment to moment. So what you sat down at the moment when you started meditating feeling may not be the feeling that you carry with you at the end of the meditation. So when your mind is changing constantly, as an artist, when you're painting, of course your artwork is also changing constantly. It's just the way how the external is meeting the internal. So
it's just the process.
Yeah, it's just the process. So just as your mind flickers and changes, so will your work flicker and change. The thing is to just honor it and just allow it to be.
So when you're talking about like your writing and your painting, they're both like art mediums, but they're not the same. I'm sure there's a few differences.
There are few differences, but I think in some senses they are the same.
Do you have the same process of like when you're writing, like sometimes like where you paint over something, like you write something but then you like...
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And then sometimes your painting informs your writing, and then your writing informs your painting. Like say if whether it's being a blank page or a blank canvas, it's the same. And depending on what you want to construct, you generally think of a perspective, you develop a landscape of this is where I want this to be, and you have this rough ideas, and so you kind of just draw your whole canvas out, or just imagine your whole canvas out before you start painting. And if you're writing a book per se, or if you're writing an article that is very specific, it's not like the practice of drawing or practice of writing, but when you're sitting down with the idea of composing something that is significant, then too you are like having an outline of where you want to take it, and you're just building it up accordingly.
Oh, that's interesting. So you kind of like, you start off and you have the end point, you just have to fill it in the middle.
Yeah, and then it's about layering, and how do you get to the process,
and you kind of like build up the story from within, kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, did you do... I can show them Did you do the artwork for the cover of your book?
Yes, I did. Yeah, actually, this is from 700-year-old fresco.
Wow. What is fresco?
A fresco is a painting that's done invariably on ceilings or.
Oh, okay.
So where my ancestors are from this very small village called Lepakshi in India. It's in Andhra Pradesh right now, and our ancestral home was literally in the outer perimeter of this temple. And I've been visiting this temple ever since I was a child. And this whole ceiling of the temple is covered with these frescoes.
Like these women?
Not just these women, but there's a lot of mythological characters. I can show you more later. I've taken a lot of pictures of it, and I've noticed that over time they were getting eroded because they're exposed to the elements, and I feared that there'll come a point where none of them are going to be left anymore at all. So on one trip that I was in India, I made sure that we spent a good bit of time taking pictures of all of them, and this particular piece was really invited me a lot into it because I felt it was just so celebratory and jubilant, and women kind of having a moment to where they're just celebrating each. I don't know what they're celebrating, but they all seem so happy. So, and it gave me an idea of how they used to dress. I even used the colors, the same colors as they had.
That was my next question, because the palette is like you have these colors and you have this bright orange, and then you have this like burgundy color. So was there any thought? Well, obviously there's thought, but was there any specific thought that went into the color palette of the cover of the book?
Well, the orange and the burgundy was something that which I just picked randomly. But as far as the color palette of the painting itself goes, I wanted to stick with the colors that people had 700 years ago, which was yellow ochre, and they had
neon pink, nothing like that.
They had probably earth red that you had, which is the Indian red, and then they had probably a gray, and by mixing these,
pink I see here.
By mixing these colors, and white, of course, so you mix the colors and you get the whole palette based on just 3 colors that you have, and of course white and gray. So
when I kind of look at it, it looks almost like water paint.
Yes, it is. This particular one is not oil paint for sure. This is water paint. So it is like so.
Is there a reason you kind of switched up your medium?
Because I was trying to get to it as close as
the original.
as the fresco, and so I wanted to kind of try to keep it as. And besides, to get into this level of detail, it was easier to get that water pencils and to kind of do that. So it was fun.
What was the inspiration for you to write the book?
The book was something that has been on my mind for, I think, as long as I can remember. I think I used to think about the life of Sita even as a young girl, ever since the first time the Mahabharata was read to me, and I was a very feisty young child. I wanted to do things with my life and accomplish things, and to have the main female character of the book depicted in a way where she was so submissive and accepting of everything that was happening around her without seemingly having a voice for herself seemed very, very different from what I was inside. And then you feel all sorts of conflicts going on, because this is a person that's emulated as an ideal.
Yeah, and also the book is like, when I was growing up, I was also read this book, and when you're just talking now, I heard so much of my mom and you too, because my mother always told me, like, she would tell me the story, and I think that a lot of the times, like, when other people told me the story, not to their dismay, but it was just something that maybe they weren't thinking about, but they kind of gloss over Sita. She's just kind of the side character, even though the whole book is about like what happens to her. It's kind of like her own side story is like glossed over, but my mom made sure to tell me like the ending, and she would talk to me about it, and like it was something of a bonding moment for us when I was younger.
Yeah, I think most Indian women would think about Sita in different ways, because her life story was something that felt very defeating for a lot of us, especially of a certain generation of women who wanted to kind of find our own voice and our own uniqueness. When I say that, I don't mean that the values of our time should be reflected in all instances. Of course, these were values that were true to that particular time, and while I'm saying when I talk about our time, our values have also shifted and changed. It's not a way to kind of change the like, oh, these are those values were incorrect,
Right.
and these values are correct, because
a time period.
a time period, because there might be a few centuries from now where people might find what we are talking about right now, like why were they even thinking that way. So it's like,
I think it's
things
hard.
change.
It's definitely difficult to put yourself in those shoes when like
perspective,
you don't even know what the shoes were.
Exactly.
So I definitely think that
Yeah.
that's a large part of it.
So, but at the same time, this is also a story that when it's still continuing, I mean, you still talk about Rama and Sita in India today, and this is a woman whose life and ideals are still emulated. And
I think she's such a big part of like she's idolized when you're like a young girl, and Rama's idolized for men too. It's like
so
there's like both. Yeah.
So it's like, and so when I was writing the book, I did not want to bring about the angry feminism of like, I just am so done with all of this, and I just want to burn everything down to the ground. But versus not a way of women going out there and demanding for their power versus taking their power back for themselves. Like I have power that I can take back for myself and figure out what is it that I want and how do I want to live in the world. So
that was actually my next question. I was going to ask, when reimagining Sita's story, did you consciously make it like a feminist icon, or was it more of an empowerment of natural evolution?
I think it's more of an empowerment and natural evolution, which is also challenging at times, especially when you're not supported in a way that you need to be supported. Empowerment also does not happen in isolation.
No.
Even for empowerment to happen, you need to have the right ingredients present. And that's the reason why I call the books Banks of Tamasa, because Tamasa was the river on which she was actually abandoned when she was pregnant with Lava and Kusha. And Tamasa is also the river where Valmiki's ashram is there. So that's where her life story takes a different turn.
So you're kind of taking that point where her life changed.
Yes.
So it was like the same up until then, but instead of her future being decided then by like what happened to her, it's not happening to her, she's like making it happen.
Making it happen, and she's telling you how to live even in adverse times with grace and dignity, and how you can still continue to contribute and evolve as a human being.
I think so. I'm actually a fan. If you didn't know, I've been reading your book and looking at your paintings, and I think that it's kind of such a good book to read. I would honestly like recommend it for like children in schools, because like it's such an interesting, different, unique take. But obviously this is telling of like the original story. With your book, is there anything that you would kind of change to the original story to make it similar, or just in general, like to maybe instead of having to like fully shift the story, anything you would change to the original story so you don't have to make that grand?
I don't think I would make any shift to the original story. I think every author has the liberty to express himself or herself in a way that they want to express. And however the original story was written in a certain way, and it held true to the time and the period in which it was written. So we need to honor that, and we need to allow it to be.
I have another question.
Okay.
If Sita existed in today's world, and I'm talking about your Sita, your rendition of her, who would she be, or who do you see like characters of herself in, like any like icons like Michelle Obama, anything like that, Oprah, Malala, like people who like are influential in changing the game?
I guess, I'd rather that I see her in everyday women. I'm not very much focused on role models per se. I think each person has the responsibility of finding who they are and what they are, and living as best a life that they can for themselves. So yes, this is something that I would like to see in every woman, every girl, every human being per se, not just, even though it's written from a woman's perspective, I think it's as relevant to men as it is to women, that it's very easy to emulate other people and try to follow in the footsteps, but your life and your life circumstance is like a combination of so many things: your genetics, your environment, your geography. I would just encourage people to, everyone has a response. You have the responsibility. When you have a life, you have a responsibility to figure out who you are, how do you want to live in the world, and what do you want to leave behind.
If anything, the people that project themselves as larger than life are the people that are the most insecure. But the thing is, that all stems from like a low emotional intelligence, a low EQ.
Absolutely.
And I think personally, I think even my dad, and we've had so many conversations about this, but EQ and IQ, because I was talking to him about outliers, and they had that conversation in the book, and I think that my dad said to me that like as much as IQ is important and as much as that you're born with it, it's something that like you can change and you grow with it. But EQ is where it really comes into play. That's how you connect with people and that's how you make bonds. But it's also something that you have to put in a different kind of effort to get better at. And it's not like you can take classes in calculus and get better at that. You can take classes in English and get better at that. But there's no class out there for emotional intelligence to grow. And because we have that issue with like these people feeling insecure and projecting it in the wrong way, how do you say we deal with that? How do we teach people to be more emotionally intelligent?
I think the only way to be emotionally intelligent is to put yourself out there, take the risks, hear no being said to you, experience rejection, and then it's almost like how a river stone gets smoothened out. There's no way to teach it other than to throw it into the water,
like the baby bird. You gotta kick it out of the nest.
So there's no other way but then to embrace life, and you will not get emotional.
And there's that fear when you embrace life. I mean, I'm sure like I'm about to like go out into the world, and I couldn't imagine like not being able to call my mom like I'm on Route 70, where do I go now? Like I could or like even at school, like, oh, I forgot to pack lunch, can you come? Like going into life without that safety net. Because like I think coming from a place where like I'm fortunate, I do have my parents and I grew up in a great household where they've been teaching me about meditation and mental health since the beginning. Not everyone is that fortunate, and I think that your background is such a big part of who you are, but I also don't think it's the only indicator of where you're going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no guarantees in life, and but what you have is the given moment. This current moment is all that you have. So what are you doing with it? What are you making out of it? And how are you choosing to live it? Is all that you can. Is all the choice that any human being has in a given moment.
So you might have noticed that the setting has changed a little bit. That's the movie magic. But so me and Miss Vandana Auntie are going to have a little bit of a painting competition. Unfortunately to say, I have no hope. But we will do it for the fun of it. And the winner will get a little treat. It'll be fun. Before we start though, I did want to read a quote from her website. It says, "Creativity is a kaleidoscopic mirage that makes this ever-changing and unpredictable life enjoyable." So I got kaleidoscopes for us. They're so fun. I was looking at them before and like I forgot how fun they used to be. I had them when I was in middle school. They're like a gift. You can keep them.
Oh, thank you so much. This is so pretty.
That was a very inspirational quote. What made you want to say it?
I feel like at any given point in time, you have so much going on in your life or in the world. Depending on where your attention gathers, it could be a joyous moment, or you could focus on something that's really ugly that's happening and nasty and make yourself feel miserable. So creativity is very much like that. So it's like in the midst of brutal warfare or whatever, it's almost like you're making a little playground for yourself, a little sanctuary where you can change the perspective of everything that's happening outside of you and bring yourself some peace and joy.
So this is our playground.
Yeah.
This is our playground. Okay, Adi's my brother. He's our cameraman here. Set a timer for 10 minutes, and in the 10 minutes we will see who can draw the best. Do you see the apples here? We'll see who can draw the best apples. Where did you go to college? Because we were talking before, and you did not originally start out being an artist.
Actually, I went to college in India. I studied to be an accountant because as you know, we had about 3 choices. You could either go into the sciences, or you could go into the arts, or you could go into accounting and commerce. So as a child, I really did not, I had no appetite for the sciences because I was not very good at it. I was very good at math, though I love math. And then I was like, I don't want to study much of history, but I could probably use my mind and do something fun with math. So
accounting.
Yep.
That's where that came. Well, what happened to your accounting dreams?
It's still there. I mean, and I wouldn't say any of those dreams are gone. I still enjoy, a good Excel spreadsheet and numbers, but it's not the only thing that I enjoy in life. And this was an unexplored part of me that I think I started to seek, and I started to explore a little later. So
that's funny, because I have an interest in accounting, or business at least. So I think it was funny when we kind of had that same interest, because you are multi-talented, but unfortunately we will see with this competition that I cannot paint apples. Bananas, I have a shot, but that's because they're a yellow stick.
We'll see. Like I said, the moment may not
The
be the
competition
right
is never
moment.
over until the timer rings, and then Adi can be the judge. When you switched, what was the story of how you kind of went from, like, because they're not exactly opposites, but normally when you go to school for accounting, you don't end up being like a renowned painter or a renowned artist. So how did that kind of happen?
I stumbled into art, and very interestingly, it's usually parents who teach children stuff, but in my household it was the other way around. My younger one, when she was born, and Maya, she was like loved art, and I mean, I used to see her draw and paint almost every time. Even as a 2-year-old, she was drawing or coloring constantly, and there's so many. It's probably you'll still see drawings on my walls at times around the house. And I was like, oh my God, I really need to encourage her creativity. So what I did was I took her to art school, and when Maya was having her art class, I figured there's nothing much for me to do, because all I was doing is sitting outside and painting. So I said, let me just probably take an art class myself. And the only thing that was available at the time was oil painting, and I was like, I've never oil painted, but who the hell cares? Let me just take a class and see where it goes. And I fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. I came home and I told my husband, you will not believe it, I haven't had that much fun in such a long time. It was just unbelievable to kind of be painting there. And then I started to take it a little bit more seriously, and before we know it, both Maya and I were taking art classes regularly. And after a year or so of taking this, I said I want to learn more. I applied to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and I got in it. And that was after that, I learned more, and
the rest was history.
Yeah, history.
Yep. So. Wow, that's actually, that's funny. I think when I was younger, I had a lot of passions, but I think they were maybe short-lived, because I was younger and my attention span was not what it is now, or maybe it will be in 10 years. I can't say now yet, but I think that I had a little art phase, but nothing crazy. I like to paint and draw. My parents when I was younger, they say that I was very creative. Yeah. Do you think creativity is something that is linear, or do you think it's exponential, kind of grows around life, or is it random, where maybe when you're focused on one thing, your creativity kind of takes a sleep and a nap, but then when you're you really have that time to tap into it, it can grow and change?
I think you really need to tap into it and let it grow. If you let it nap, it naps. It naps and it takes very long naps, and then you are pretty much lost out on your life. But then you realize that I have not been really feeling quite as happy as I thought I'd be, and there's something missing. You feel that when if you're not living your ideal life, and I think anybody who has a gift of any kind, the universe almost has it in it. It's like your ethos, and it wants to express itself. It's like an oak tree producing a seed, or an apple tree producing an apple. Or it has to do what it's supposed to do, and if it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, then there's a little bit of I'm not quite feeling myself kind of a feeling, and you allow yourself to be, and then rest is history.
So we did our competition. Our 10 minutes are up. We can see that there's a clear winner, but you guys can't see there's a clear winner.
I think the winner is Soha.
I think she's lying. We can. Okay, you can show yours first.
Okay. There you go.
So that's her painting.
Thank you.
Excellent. And here's my painting.
a little more than an apple.
No, but she's got mushrooms, so I think she deserves she's the winner. Clear winner. Because
I have a mushroom. I had to clarify that it was apples. Someone might think it was oranges. Okay. But yeah, so Auntie definitely won. So as promised, I brought lemon donuts for the winner. They're all yours.
Thank you, Soha.
That was fun. It was so interesting to see your art process because, like, I think I was way more frantic, but like you were so calm, like in your element. I think that's something that's rare to see. It was like seeing Picasso in action.
I don't know. I haven't seen Picasso in action, but I hope he had as much fun as I did.
He probably did. So our next game is called. So are you with the term "spill the tea"?
Yes.
Well, this is spill the chai.
Okay.
So we have chai, but also I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and then if you don't want to answer it, you have to eat the hot sauce.
Ooh.
So we have Tabasco. This is from Chipotle. We have Sriracha, and then we have this, which, let's see what it's called. It's called green chili pickle.
Oh my God.
But I'm not good with hot sauce. Are you? You say you're good with spice.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm as good with the green chili one, but the other 2 I might be able to manage. Okay, what the questions are.
So question number 1. So either this goes for both of us, and then you get the questions. If you answer it, then like you don't have to eat it. But if you do answer it, I have to eat it.
Ooh, okay.
And if you don't answer it, then you have to eat it.
Okay.
Okay. So question 1. What's the most trouble you've ever gone into as a child?
Now, which one to pick is the question. I think the most trouble I got into was I used to go to a Catholic school as a kid, and I somehow managed. We had moral science classes, and so every day before lunch we had 30 minutes of moral science.
Yeah.
And there was actually a moral science test, just like you had a math test and a science test, and it was a part of your grade. And when I was in 5th grade, and I don't know what I wrote, I managed to fail in moral science. Which was a very embarrassing and very difficult time for me, because it so happened that the principal of the school used to come in randomly to distribute the report cards, and she came into the class on the time when I had failed in moral, and she was livid at me. She did not know who I was or what I was, and she said, she looked at my report card and she said, failing in moral science, and she just flung it across the room, and I was probably cherry red and very embarrassed and miserable bed.
You remember her name after seeing? Oh my God. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my God.
So, yeah, that is one of the instances.
Yeah, it probably stayed in your memory forever. Oh my God. I think something similar happened to me when I was in class, and we had a test that day, and I completely forgot that we had a test. So I was like talking to my friend, and like she was handing it out, and like it was 2nd or 3rd grade. So I like back then there weren't like tests so serious, but it was like be quiet, do your paper, and then turn it in. It was like that. But I didn't realize it was a test. So I was like taking it, and I was like, what's the answer to this question? And she was like, I can't tell you. And I was like, that's weird. And I was like asking my friend, like, how'd you do this one? And she was like, stop. And I was like, why is everybody being so weird? And at one point she was like, Soha, this is a test, stop. And I was like, and then everyone in the class started laughing, and I was like,
oh, you poor thing.
Miss Adams.
Yeah, see, we never forget.
Yeah, Miss Adams. I remember that forever.
We'll remember that for the rest of our life.
Okay, so now you have to answer. Okay, it's okay. I like Chipotle. Chipotle is one of my favorite outgoing spots.
Okay.
Where do you like to go for fast food?
Fast food, I think Chipotle is our favorite.
Really?
Place too, yeah.
Do you get bowls or burritos?
I like tacos, actually.
Really?
Yes.
I've never had a Chipotle taco.
I mean, it's the closest thing to kind of Belpuri kind of a thing. So.
Oh, that's funny. I love
the
that.
crunchiness and all the textures. So I love
Okay.
that. You go ahead, do that. So how do you feel about that?
It tastes better on rice. Okay, I feel like my parents are gonna be like, this is our Indian daughter. Like, she can't even eat Chipotle. Okay, 2nd question. Most embarrassing moment / story from college.
From college. We'll
put Jeopardy music when we're editing.
I think I'm gonna get ready to eat the sauce.
This is sriracha sauce.
Yes. Ooh. Should I just?
Yeah, this is the top from that part.
I know sriracha is a little hot.
Ooh, that's funny. I'll come back in 2 years and I'll come back in 2 years once I'm in college and we'll play this game again and then we'll see if I have a story.
You didn't say how much, so I guess.
Is it spicy?
Oh, but it's good spicy.
Okay, third question. This is the final one. What is a secret you've never told anyone? It can be something silly, but it's like something like you've never told anyone.
Oh, yes, I have.
You have one?
Yeah. I always tell my kids to try and not be late.
Yeah.
And to get to things on time. And I like, if you're getting late, you need to be patient with yourself and not be, don't
Stressed
get impatient
out,
with yourself and stressed out. And once I had to go to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I was late. And I was not patient with myself. And up the escalator, I decided it was a good idea to run up the escalator.
Oh no!
And I tripped and I fell. And then it was rush hour, so all the commuters were like, ah! There's a collective gasp, and I was so impressed. And I think half a dozen people told me, you should never, worry about. And I was like, I know. I told my kids.
I actually have a funny story from this weekend. I was at a robotics competition and I was helping, I put everything away, so I was holding a box and I was going down the stairs of the stands and I couldn't see anything because I was like, in my family I'm called Silly Soha because I'm clumsy. I'm known for being clumsy. Something happens like, oh, what are you, Soha? That's the joke in my family. I'm holding this box, I'm like holding 3 things, I'm walking down these stairs and I can't see the steps and I'm like, so I walk down the whole stand, so it's like 20 steps, fine. Then we're in this little platform, 3 more steps to go, and I trip and fall. And I'm holding all these boxes, and they're full of like I'm trying to go upright. So I'm falling, crashing down for 10 steps. And there's this man, security guard, sitting in a seat facing this way.
Oh my god!
And I
Who are you?
And the worst part is, so I didn't tell anyone. Everyone after, they're like, so how you look? I was like, nothing happened.
Nothing happened. Don't ask me.
But there was someone behind me, walking behind me, holding more boxes. And I turned around. They're crying, laughing, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god.
Why did you have to witness that?
No, that didn't happen. Nothing happened. Erase. I know the Men in Black pen. Yeah. Forget your memory. This has happened. That's what I wanted to do. I was so embarrassed. Oh my god. Oh. At least your thing, no one you knew was there.
Yeah, no one I knew was there, but it was still pretty embarrassing.
Okay. Now we're going to do this thing where you have to pick either this or that. Okay. I think I know you're into the first one. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Oil paint or acrylic paint?
Oil.
What about oil versus water?
Oil.
Oil versus just in general sculptures?
Oil paints.
Wow, interesting. When you were younger, did you ever do that air dry clay with your daughters?
Oh yes, I did.
Yeah,
yes,
you
actually
did?
in Crayola factory and stuff.
That's
them. Yeah.
At my school once we had them in we put in the kiln and mine broke.
Ooh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, sari or lenga?
Sorry.
Sari.
Yeah.
What's your preferred color? I like green.
Red.
Red.
Yeah.
Fancy. Rasmalai or gulab jamun?
Gulab jamun.
My mom makes the best gulab jamun in the world.
Ooh.
I'll have to give it to you sometime. It's so good. Would you rather read something or listen to an audiobook?
I would rather read something.
Okay. Do you like rock music or pop music or Indian music? Like Indian rock or pop music?
Indian music.
Indian music?
Yeah.
My parents like that too.
Yeah.
My mom likes listening to the old Indian music
me too.
from the black and white days where the movies were black and white.
That's what my husband loves. But
Yeah.
I mean, I can go across the street.
Really?
Yeah.
My dad does that. He's very up to date.
Yeah.
Would you rather listen to an audiobook or a podcast?
I think a podcast.
Good, because that was the right answer. that was the test and you passed it. Would you rather, are you a big social media person?
Not really.
Instagram or TikTok?
Instagram.
Instagram?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Do you have TikTok downloaded?
Nope.
Yeah. Would you rather go on a first date again or a blind date again? Actually, you should tell us the story how you met your husband.
I think, my husband was introduced to me by a neighbor.
Oh!
By my neighbor, and it was kind of arranged, so we got introduced and then we met each other and then we decided to get married. So.
That's how my parents' marriage was.
Yeah.
It was through like some friend or something, but like it's still like a fun story to hear about their first date and what they did. We're from New Jersey. We live in New Jersey. Would you call sprinkles or jimmies?
Sprinkles.
That's a controversial take.
Yeah, I know,
People
that's
like
true.
jimmies.
Jimmies.
Like people say like water or water.
Water.
Water?
No, water. But you're supposed to say water in New Jersey.
Water. Or like bagels or bagel. People say bagel.
Bagels.
Yeah. That's the New Jersey,
New
way.
Jersey way.
You have to do
Yeah.
it. You're not a real New Jerseyan unless.
I'm going to start saying Jimmy's now.
How long have you been living here?
In New Jersey for about 22 years.
Oh wow.
It's time to say Jimmy's, right?
Maybe this is what convinces you to. Would you rather dress up or dress down?
Or dress down.
Dress down?
Yeah.
Not a big fancy person?
Yeah, I love being.
So then would you rather wear like sneakers or like heels? Like Crocs or heels?
Crocs.
Crocs. You're a Croc person?
Yeah, absolutely.
My brother's a Croc person.
Yeah.
He likes those Crocs.
Yeah, I love being comfortable.
Yeah, my dad doesn't. He's like, what? My mom is like, those look so ugly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, easy to put on, and it's so comfortable, and
I can't get over how they look.
Yeah.
At the end of every podcast episode, I wanted to start something because you're my first guest, so this is a momentous occasion.
Thank you.
I wanted to start something where I get left with one piece of advice. So one parting advice that you want to give me before I go on my way.
Ooh. Okay, I'll give you two pieces of advice. One is a larger piece, is probably as a young person, it's very easy to get caught up with what you're doing in your life and what's happening to you and how things you're experiencing. Just take a moment and remember how everything is interconnected, and what you're doing and what you're putting out in the world is like creating ripples, and it's affecting other people's lives. So that is the larger piece of advice. The simpler piece of advice is make sure you're well rested and you're well fed before you make any big decisions. So college decision, make sure you're fed and you've had a good night's sleep before you do that. So that's it.
Is that actually, before we started recording, she said the same thing. She's like, eat the scone because you need to you have some energy. That was consistency.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
My parents always well, that's not related. My parents say always never go to a grocery store when you're hungry.
Oh yeah.
So that's
absolutely.
It's more than that. It's like, don't do if you're really desperate for something, don't immediately say yes to anything.
Yeah.
You have to think about it
Right.
first.
But if you land
Or if
by
you're
the
excited, you have to calm down and then make a big decision.
Absolutely.
This was a really fun podcast episode.
Oh, thank you so much.
Now all the guests have to live up to this level you put up.
I really enjoyed meeting and talking to you. This was an absolute delight.
I'm so happy for meeting you. Here,
And everything was so well organized and you'd come so well prepared. I'm proud of you.
Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you, sweetheart.